Hey, RetconRaider here. Today's video is dedicated to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, with special thanks to Revenant, Anerdinwarpaint, Antonio Hernandez, Icestormshadow, Nathan Welch Jr., and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, let's get started. And welcome back to the Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous beta, as we spend a little more time getting to know our increasingly impressive array of unlikely allies. And after that, hopefully getting back out into the field and, doing some of that adventuring stuff. I mean, I guess that's important too. On a more serious note, I am shooting for about a 50-50 split. We're only talking to Daeran before we head back out. And I figure that'll take about 15 minutes. I will note, I was a little surprised that so many people wanted me to speak with Daeran first. He was actually tied with Ember as far as votes went. But I recently discovered that Ember is not actually supposed to be sporting her new coat and tails just yet. That is apparently a scripting bug, so it definitely took a bit of the urgency out of speaking with her. The Defender's Heart is a splendid choice for the Crusade's outpost. The very sight of these walls brings back fond memories of drinks and revels. The drinks were really good, by the way. May I ask you a few personal questions? You can try. I've heard stories about the tragedy that befell your family. I hope you don't feel obliged to offer me your insincere condolences on this unfortunate occasion. My whole family, my entire noble line, they all died, and demons are to blame. It's not like I actually loved any of my relatives except for my mother, but what's gone is gone. The family crypts are full of corpses, all covered in dust and shadows of the past. What do you cherish most in life? There are far too many things that I cherish to fit them all into a single conversation. Believe it or not, but I might be one of the most life-loving people you've ever known. Daeran smiles. His eyes are gleaming with something different from his usual impudence and irony. There's a dreamy air about him all of a sudden. I rarely meet anyone who embraces the joys of living as enthusiastically as myself. There are so many exciting and beautiful things in the world. It should be illegal to waste your time on anything you do not enjoy. And I am not afraid to repeat that to anyone's face. Should it be Discari and his demonic herd, or Iomedae, the Lightbringer herself. And what do you hate the most? The feeling of helplessness and the lack of control over my own life. Daeran replies without thinking. Then he adds with obvious sarcasm. And onion rings, of course. I'd murder the person who came up with those abominations. Well, clearly you just haven't had good onion rings. You don't seem especially keen on helping people, but your knowledge of healing is truly impressive. What prompted your interest in that? If you really want to try out everything life has to offer, you also have to understand how to deal with the consequences. And I'm not talking about a simple hangover, mind you. You have any good stories about your past exploits? I've got plenty, but I have to warn you that even the most outrageous debauchery sounds far less thrilling when you're not the one doing the debauching. Still, since you asked, I suppose the worst mess I've gotten myself into was when I staged my own kidnapping. I was once in correspondence with one of the Riverland nobles, the young Lord Lebeda, and he told me about his days as a hostage to a group of bandits. This made me wonder what it would be like, and I thought that it might be fun to set up a little experiment. I engineered my own kidnapping by a certain gang through a chain of intermediaries and hired actors. Those fellows took the job very seriously. They caught me by surprise, killed my 2 bodyguards, and even tied me up. Of course, the whole thing seems preposterous now, but it seemed like an ingenious idea at the time. The employers had told the kidnappers that they were to keep me safe and sound, and another group of mercenaries in disguise was watching the spectacle from afar, ready to interfere in case anything went wrong. It turned out to be a terrible idea nonetheless. It wasn't the least bit fun or exciting. Sure, those bandits had been unable to torture or hurt me physically in any way, but they had plenty of other non-invasive methods of humiliation in their arsenal. Taking almost all of your clothes off and splashing ice-cold water all over you, for example. Ugh. I can't even remember if I said anything truly offensive to provoke them. Even though I initially planned to let them go after the ransom, their overly emotional reactions made me change my mind. I told my mercenaries to hang them all on the spot. I suppose the whole ordeal taught me a valuable lesson, which is that I am not built for hardships and trials. That's an interesting takeaway. Wait, you just told me that a couple of your bodyguards died during the staged kidnapping. Does that mean 2 innocent people lost their lives so that you could have a bit of fun? Daeran pales a little, but not out of shame. Oh, spare me. It irks me beyond all measure when I hear about the suffering of innocents. He sighs, looks away, and continues in a flat, polite tone. Yes, the bodyguards died. Guarding nobles is a dangerous job. They were well aware of the risk. I don't really see a problem with that. Besides, they proved their incompetence. They would have stood no chance against real kidnappers. That's interesting. I get the distinct impression that he deliberately set us up with the expectation that we would scold him. This might actually be kind of, I don't want to say contrarian, but this might be him essentially lashing out, trying to establish some small degree of control in a life that is otherwise largely divinely preordained. These mind games of yours will come back to bite you sooner or later. I hope not. I enjoy myself. I enjoy my life. And I'd like to keep this going for as long as possible. So, that was a stupid story, and now I'll tell you a truly brilliant one. Prelate Halrun had always strictly prohibited any public celebration in Canabris, and he always picked on me for my lack of respect for the fallen and whatnot. His grumbling annoyed me so much that one day I drove 4 barges into the city harbor and set up a celebration on their decks. The ships on the river didn't fall under the prelate's jurisdiction, you see, so all he could do was snarl at me from the embankment. I, for one, did not forget the old boy. The main attraction of the festivities involved an inquisitor of Iomedae dancing and roasting beautiful witches on illusory bonfires, taking off his clothes with every new victim. The spectacle was so heated, in every sense of the word, that the prelate almost had a stroke. Daeran gives you a mischievous smile. I still consider that one of my finest ideas of all time. Should the Crusaders ever succeed in their efforts against the World Wound, I will do my utmost to get permission to hold a grand public celebration. Rivers of wine, free of charge, an obligatory parade, and a carnival in the evening. A contest for the most provocative succubus costume, with a hefty prize in gold. Another contest where the participants have to fish a sausage out of a wine jar blindfolded, with their hands tied behind their backs. The wine will symbolize the blood of all the dead heroes of the war, and the sausage, well, they'll find a heroic meaning for that as well. Over the years, the commemoration of the greatest victory of light over darkness will turn into an ordinary holiday, a fine excuse to get sloshed and rut like animals in the streets. Do you really enjoy being mean to everyone? Yes. And here I thought you were hurling insults at people purely by accident. Daeran laughs. This time his smile is surprisingly soft. I like your way with words. What did you expect me to say if I wanted to make a good impression? Something along the lines of, I'm not mean, I'm just being honest with myself and everyone else. That's what people use as an excuse when they want to keep up their saccharine facade, while still saying whatever nasty little thoughts spring to mind. That is not what I do. I have no hidden agenda. I'm just as much of an insufferable prick as I seem to be. Some people are simply begging for a good dose of mockery, so who am I to deny them? I don't give a damn if anyone holds a grudge against me, which is why I don't even try to avoid it. I have no more questions. I hope this conversation was at least the slightest bit amusing. I'd like to talk to you about life in Mendev and the Crusade. Ask. I'm all ears. What's your opinion on Mendev today in general? It doesn't exist. Daeran scowls. It is a frontier country that has attracted every utopian, adventurer, and fanatic from all over the world for more than a century. It is a place where the strangers outnumber the locals, especially in the cemeteries. The population of Mendev, for the most part, consists of humans and other races, not exactly known for their longevity, so the current generation of Mendevians were born in the shadow of the World Wound, and raised by the Crusades. I might be the last person to complain about the decline of traditions and lack of character in our country, but I also happen to come from one of Mendev's most ancient lineages. Its history is bred deep in my bones. My tutors told me stories about my heritage. The galleries, libraries, and even the interiors of the manors I grew up in were filled to the brim with memories of events long past. There are many heroes of old Mendev among my glorious ancestors, or at the very least, patrons and contemporaries of such heroes. Does anyone actually remember them now? I don't think so. These days, Mendev has its own heroes in shining armor and with holy fire in their eyes. I myself remember how several streets that once celebrated my ancestors were renamed in honor of some crusaders who had died in a heroic fashion. None of the citizens remember the old crossing festival that was eventually replaced by Armistice. These holidays even share the same date. Pretty much the only authentic thing about Mendev now is its endless war with the demons. And is there a point in bemoaning this state of affairs? What's gone is gone. But at least we are no longer some tiny god-forsaken northern kingdom. And that's something, isn't it? Characteristically bleak, but surprisingly insightful. You don't really like Crusaders, do you? Quite the opposite. When I think about how many devoted heroes are willing to protect this world against the demonic threat, I feel so inspired. Inspired to continue indulging my vices while they fight to keep me safe. Imagine being someone like me, someone who has everything they can possibly desire. Youth, beauty, wealth, an honest wish to live and enjoy living, but vanishingly few ways to put it all to any use. The fact that the word fun itself is not yet outlawed in Mendev must be due to some bureaucratic oversight. You can celebrate your victory solemnly, you can wet your whistle after a challenging battle. But what about real fun? Joys, pleasures? I can't remember a single evening at court without someone chastening me for my banquets, my lovers and mistresses, my luxuriant clothes, my everything. It would have been a lot easier to tolerate all those hypocrites if they took a break once in a while. Instead, there was a constant fuss about how I wasn't doing anything for the greater good, and how I only brought shame to my royal cousin. I see. And what do you think of our enemies? Do you mean the demons themselves or their followers? The former deserve to be cleansed with heavenly fire for their ungodly origin alone, and the latter for their idiocy. I don't understand why a sane person would submit themselves to Discari or Cabriri. Alright, Lady Nocticula almost seems like a bearable enough mistress. Yet there are so many other cultists. They've tried to recruit me twice already, and I'm not even that old. First, a very pretty tiefling girl tried to seduce me. Then they came after me with promises of Lord Baphomet's endless boons. I still wonder what exactly the old hornhead could offer me that I don't already have. You know what I've been thinking? Every shopkeeper knows this trick. An enticing offer along the lines of, 1 in every 100 buns from my bakery contains a silver coin, and of course a hired actress to make a memorable show of finding said coin in her sweet roll. And there you have it, hundreds of gullible fools storm the shop, hoping to win a prize for themselves. I think the infamous Arilu Vorlesh was such an actress for the Lords of the Abyss. A petty Sarkorian witch who became the uncrowned queen of the world wound, waited upon hand and foot by demon lords. Only instead of visiting a bakery, the gullible fools rushed to join the cultists. We have an army of unbelievably powerful supernatural invaders from another dimension, hell-bent on destruction and domination. And what do these fools do? They serve them willingly as pawns and lackeys, hoping against hope that someday their masters will notice them. You won't believe how delighted I am to be so vain and self-absorbed. These sins protect me against demonic temptation better than any virtue. Thank you, Daeran. I can't think of anything else at the moment. Wonderful. Actually, there is one more thing. What made you join my party, anyway? You mean instead of carousing far away from Canabris with a small army of mercenaries to protect me? I will get to that. You see, when you appeared at my door out of nowhere, awash with bravery and heroism, and started tossing demons around like ragdolls, I thought that your company might be more exciting than my usual crowd of sycophantic hangers-on. You seemed competent and mysterious at the same time, so I decided that a little demon hunting wouldn't hurt, especially with such an intriguing entourage. That party had been growing staler with every passing second anyway. Needless to say, I am not here for long. I shall return to the capital or even one of my country estates as soon as we reclaim the city. Crusades, bellowing commanders, row upon row of identical tents. This is not the life for me, but I will certainly remember you and our adventures together. For a week, or perhaps even longer than that. Well, I should go. Daeran? Fascinating. I can definitely see why people wanted me to talk to Daeran next. He's a surprisingly deep character. It is tempting to just assume he's some sort of malevolent, narcissistic sociopath, but there really does seem to be more going on behind the scenes there. Klaem seems remarkably at ease. His face is untroubled, as if his life and the lives of everyone else in the tavern aren't hanging by a thread. As he reads a dog-eared book and makes notes in the margins, he notices you, looks up from the page, and gives you an amiable nod. Tell me about yourself. I'm from Taldor. I began serving Nethys from a very young age. I swept the temple, dusted the books, and I studied. I dreamed of becoming a Theurge, but for whatever reason, no matter how well I performed magic or how devoutly I prayed, I could never combine those two strengths. And then I came across Mirmir's book about the application of magic in the struggle against the demons, and her words revealed a great secret to me, that faith is dead without deeds, that anyone who seeks knowledge for its own sake, or power or glory, will not achieve anything unless they direct it toward a worthy purpose. I renounced Nethys and swore myself to Iomedae. I crossed an entire continent to meet Lady Mirmir and ask her to take me on as her student. And it was here, in this accursed land, fighting against the forces of the abyss, that I finally realized the true purpose of magic and prayer. I became a Theurge because I finally had a reason to become one. Tell me about your order. Our order devotes itself to mystical research and the pursuit of secret knowledge. We spend just as much time on spells as we do on prayers and weapon drills. At the end of the day, our enemy is not of this world, which means that to fight it, we need knowledge that is not of this world either. I can see that Mirmir the Scholar means a lot to you. She's my teacher, Klaem responds simply. Without her, I wouldn't be who I am today. What are you reading? Klaem closes the book and shows you the cover. Selected passages from the letters of Saint Lemirin. It's amazing how humble she was. She could have been the high priestess of the Church of Iomedae if she'd wanted to. Power was hers for the taking. But clearly it wasn't a temptation for her. Reading these letters, I understand why Iomedae made Lemirin one of her servants after she died. And how can you help us when we attack the Great Garrison? There is one ritual that we've been wanting to test for a long time. If it works as it should, we can offer you an effect similar to a haste spell. Not for a handful of seconds, but for scores of minutes, maybe even hours. Okay, I will agree. That sounds pretty ideal. Alright then, I'll leave you to it. Be careful. Our foes like to pretend to be our friends. Nice. I was slightly worried that was going to be a drawn-out conversation. I've never actually talked to him before. I've never actually rescued him before. In my original test run, I put off going to the library too long, and he was a crispy corpse by the time I showed up. Let's hit the pause button real quick so I can set up our party and do some last-minute bookkeeping, and we'll get back to it. And we are back. Now, after looking at all the feedback over the past couple of episodes, this is essentially the party we ended up with. To my surprise, Daeran and Ember actually got more votes than pretty much anyone else. And poor Nenio got the least. In fact, there were a couple of people who even specifically asked me not to include her, and yeah, fair enough. I mean, I personally find her amusing, but I get it. She's definitely not much of a powerhouse at the moment, and she can be grating. It was a bit more surprising to see Waljif slip, but I suppose he is one of the more two-dimensional party members. So Camellia ended up just barely beating him out for the third melee slot, because a lot of people wanted to see her interacting with Daeran. Just as well, I suppose, because it turns out that she is actually better at trickery than he is, so she's technically a better thief. A lot less damage potential, but a lot more utility. So hopefully this lineup should work. Okay, so we actually have a fair number of options out here. About a half dozen locations we have not yet visited. Not to mention the other half of the marketplace we have not yet cleared. But given that we know we're still under a soft time limit, we'll just focus on thinning out the cultists today. We'll make a beeline for the Tower of Estrid, and depending on how we're doing after that, we'll branch out from there. That's fine. We could use a warm-up.
Let me draw the first blood.
Oh, that's nasty. Flanked by a trio of Discari cultists. Those are the ones with negative energy channeling. Nice. That buys us some time. Now we'll focus on the next one in line.
Drown in the holy light!
Wow. Yeah, okay. I think we'll be fine. I think Land's Flurry of Bows is on the fritz again. Alright, let's mop this last guy up. Just want to make sure he doesn't fire off that channel. Nice. Pretty solid showing from Camellia. Guess she's making up for lost time. Let's reset Land's bow real quick. That should hopefully fix his flurry. And let's do a quick roundabout on the map. I have been told that the developers have apparently started hiding loot on random encounter maps. I have seen that in the world map encounters, but never in Canabras. But they are adding new things all the time, so I figure it's worth a look. Not this time, it would appear. I'll keep it in mind going forward. Dead duelists. A knight and a cultist died together here, piercing each other fatally with swords. Their remains are mangled, and their weapons and armor are destroyed. But something in their bags survived the conflict. You know, I do like the idea of these ingredient harvesting nodes, but they really make it sound more like casual looting, as opposed to using skills to actually identify important crafting ingredients. Not a big deal, just a passing thought. Estrid Tower. This fortified tower of gray stone has long served as the city's museum, archive, and research center. Its upper floors have been completely destroyed during the demonic invasion, and a squat stump surrounded by heaps of debris is all that's left of this once dignified building. Which does make sense. I believe the letter we retrieved from Hosilla's corpse specifically mentioned that the cultists of Baphomet had infiltrated this place. So it makes sense it was ground zero for one of their assaults. Let's have a look, shall we? Oh yeah, I'd say this place has seen better days. Let's get buffs up before we go any further.
You're a good person. I like you.
Yes.
Huh. I guess that's it.
Smile. The world's not ending just yet.
Onward, my friends. Canabris burns, the city that should never have fallen. Fate shows no mercy. Clouds may veil the stars, but nothing can hide the light in someone's soul. And I see this light in you. We will stand shoulder to shoulder with you against evil. I hear the echo of a familiar voice. I feel the warmth of my kindred flame. My sister, we will help you. Oh, okay. I get the distinct impression that they were not reacting to us, but more to the fragment of Yaniel, or possibly Radiance, which we're carrying with us. Interesting. Okay, well, we don't want to squander this free bless spell, so we'll push on and come back for the paintings a bit later. Whoever you are, keep quiet. There's a horde of enemies just beyond this door. Come over here and you'll see. There's a handy way up nearby. Actually, let's try that door. Okay. Just had to be sure.
Quiet steps. Weapons ready.
Be quiet and watch. This is the best part. Get it together, idiots. No more looting. You're all to sit tight here and wait for the order to attack the defender's heart. It's the last bastion of the Crusader resistance. We'll flatten them and claim our victory. Into the abyss with all Crusaders and the Defender's heart. Kilas, the city is ours already. Now it's time to enjoy the spoils. Split up into groups, quickly. I'll tell you where to go and what to bring back. Faxon, you idiot. Go back to Baphomet. He must be missing his lapdog. Everyone here will be following my orders. I'm in charge. We won't submit to you, you dirty Descarite. Keep out of this, Kilas, or I'll curse all your extremities to wither and drop off. Everyone, listen to me. What we're going to do is... Looking for a fight, Faxon? Well, you've got one. Had enough, worm? I'm in charge here. Kilas is the strongest. No looting, only slaughter. We're going to sit here and wait for the command to attack. The defender's heart will fall. The grim-faced dwarf with a thick head of black hair holds a finger to his lips. Then he points at the enemies and whispers, I'd stay away from there right now. The tower is the main stronghold of the Templars of the Ivory Labyrinth and their allies. Going up against that many of them would be suicide. I have a better idea. If the demons and their mortal agents were better organized, the Crusaders would have been crushed long before now. But they're always trying to spread in every direction. Right now, in every corner of the city, there are demons like Kilas, who are trying to consolidate their forces to launch a joint attack on the Defender's heart. Who are you? Greybor. I'm a contract killer who's been hired to kill that demon that just walloped that other one. I've tracked him all the way here and was planning to kill him when this crowd showed up, so I had to pull back. And who hired you? I'm afraid that's confidential. As a professional, I'm obliged to keep my client's name a secret. All right, what do you suggest? Don't even think about trying to take them all on single-handed. You'll be mincemeat. Better to warn the Crusaders at the Defender's heart that the demons are planning to attack. And later, once all the attackers have been taken care of, it'll be much easier to sweep through this tower and eliminate the defenders left behind. Like when dueling with rapiers. One doesn't lunge, but waits for the opponent to strike and leave themselves open. Greybor's eyebrows shoot up, as though he wasn't expecting to hear such words from the delicate young lady. He nods anyway. Yeah, exactly like that. You know, we could attack them together. I have no desire to die today. If you choose to go in there, I'll take advantage of the opportunity, of course. I'll kill Kilas and get back here as quickly as I can. I'm not going to fight any of the others. I don't work for free. That is fair. The city is burning. People are dying. And you're thinking about how to fill your pockets? The dwarf shrugs. Yeah, so what? Listen here, girl. If you're so eager to save someone, go and do it. And don't waste your breath preaching at me. I'll just be going. I hope you act wisely. You're so sad. Please, take care. The dwarf looks at Ember, and sadness gleams in his grim eyes. He answers in a surprisingly soft voice. What are you doing here, girl? This is no place for people like you. Go, hide somewhere safe. Alright, so obviously we are not just going to let these guys attack Defender's Hearth. But we do need to plan carefully here, because they outnumber us about 2 to 1. The only real advantage we have is surprise. We've got a second platform we can jump to, but I'm not seeing much advantage to doing that, because... Oh, but that looks slightly more promising. The skill check is much easier, and it would put us up on a fairly inaccessible elevated perch. Unless I'm missing something, they would have to circle all the way around on the stairs to get to us. Yeah, let's push up top and get a better look at what we're working with.
Thanks, Lan. You're so awesome, Lan.
Ah, I see. Okay. So if we push that, it will presumably hit this pack of demons here. A plan is starting to formulate. Okay, let's cluster our 3 range attackers here near the pillar. We'll have Lan open things up by pushing that pillar down on the demons, and we'll have the rest of our melee guys closer to the top of the stairs. That way they can intercept them as they try to run up to attack the revealed range fighters. Near as I can tell, the majority of these enemies are melee focused, so they'll have no choice but to come running right into our blades. Thank you, Camellia. And let's hold here. We don't want to risk getting too close. We have like -8 stealth on Creed and Sela.
Yes.
Always be ready for the worst.
Buffs up. All right, let's do this.
The Mongo did it.
Ah, it seems we have visitors. Crusaders! That was the world's fastest dwarf. Also, combat has not started yet.
Make every strike count.
There we go. Flurry of Bows is back up and running. Remember? Ah, just out of range. Okay. We will hold. No reason to move up just yet. I guess we'll bring Daeran over. Get him within channel range. I guess we'll bring Ember over too. Get her within slumber range. Let's bring Kaiser up. Make sure these guys can actually see us.
Endure this!
All right, we've got movement. I think what happened there is that they could see Lan, and they wanted to get to him. But our stealth party members were blocking their pathfinding. So they were just standing there, waiting for an opening. Now, we've got a fight. Let's go for the caster. Nice. I was not expecting that to work. Yeah, see, now they're blocking the pathfinding on the stairs. No worries. We'll get that cleared up for them. Rude. hold for a sec, Camellia? Nice. Just wanted to lead with a tank. Ah, that's fine. Honestly, taking out Faxon makes her the MVP pretty much no matter what. That was pretty impressive. Once we take out Faxon, the AdriRaven is going to come right for us, so let's prep for that. That a girl. And then Kaiserate him.
You won't survive me.
Oh my. That is quite a hit from land.
I'll make short work of this.
Those poor guys never stood a chance. So much for all of Greybor's doom and gloom. Oh, hey, looks like that bumped us up to level 4, too. Fantastic. Heavy Mace of Fire. Identical to the one we pulled off of Hosilla, I assume. Oh, +1 buckler. Well, that obviously goes to Camellia. Ah, and, what's-his-face? Kilas. Full plate, we'll take that. Actually, if I have done my math right, Creed should be able to equip that full plate without being encumbered once we bump his strength up to 17. So finding that is actually pretty fortuitous. Alright, room's clear. And I think that brings us to a pretty good stopping point. Let's go ahead and slap that buckler on Camellia. You know what? Her AC is actually more impressive than I thought it was. I was treating her like she was a fragile flower. But she's actually just behind Steele and Creed. Okay, well, yeah, like I said, this obviously brings us to a good stopping point. I am going to need to very carefully look at our level ups. I believe it's primarily just +1 attribute point at level 4, but we also need to start figuring out what to do with our skills, because our current crew especially is definitely neglecting knowledge, religion, and world lore. So I'm going to need to see if I can work those into our repertoire somewhere. That said, we will hit the pause button for now, but we will pick up here next time. We'll knock out those level ups, we'll check out the basement of the tower, and revisit that gallery we passed on the way in. And then we will continue saving Canabras, one den of cultists at a time. See you then. Oh, and remember, although I do love playing Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, you can find out more about the game by visiting the official website, the official social media feeds, or the official store pages. And if you'd like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Or maybe even check out the Patreon. Links are in the description.